As there are not any reliable statistics, nobody knows for sure how many poker pros go broke, but it's certainly too many. Most of the specific causes discussed here will have one common factor, which is arrogance. Self-confidence, of course, is essential for a successful poker pro, but you should not believe I am too special to die broke. It is incredibly difficult for the average poker player to imagine winning millions of the tables and then somehow going broke within a year or two, but this fate has befallen more pros in our game than in any other. What is up guys, Maxi from Poker Bounty bringing you today poker legends who shockingly went broke. Number 1. Stu Ungar. Stu Ungar is widely regarded as the best poker player of all time. Thanks to his incredible IQ and photographic memory, the kid managed to win the WSOP main event 3 times in 1980, 81, and 1997. At the same time as he was taking down main event bracelets and vast sums in the toughest high-stakes cash games, he was fighting addictions which would ultimately see him die a lonely and penniless death in a Vegas motel. Winning $10,000 in a marathon gin rummy game in New York, he lost it all at the Belmont and Aqueduct horse tracks in a few days. This was just a taste of how his life would go. Huge wins and devastating losses. Winning $1 million at the poker tables, then losing more than double on football betting, then more still at the craps table was not an unusual part of the troubled young genius's life. Running from debts and then winning big to pay them off took its toll. When Stu Ungar took down the 1980 WSOP main event, he was the youngest champion ever and repeated his success the following year. His legend grew as he took down the best no-limit titled events the game had to offer throughout the 1980s. But the drugs and the gambling problem took their share of Ungar, often forcing him to play when seriously ill or in dire need to win to cover his debts. It wasn't until 1997 that he managed to win his 3rd main event bracelet, a $1 million payday, which was a result of being back to play in the event at the last minute. "That was my greatest performance ever," said a tearful Stu Ungar afterwards. The comeback kid became his new nickname, but it was very short-lived. After he died alone at the age of 45, the poker and gambling world mourned the troubled yet meteoric life of one of the game's true legends. It is estimated that his total losses amounts to a staggering $30 million. Number 2. Archie Karas. Archie the Greek Karras is another poker player and gambler with legendary status. His famous run from 1993 to 95 saw him turn his $50 into a $40 million fortune. However, while for Ungar it was drugs and sports betting which took him down to the bottom again, for the Greek it was dice and baccarat which wiped out his winnings in short 3 weeks. In 1993, down to his last $50, he returned to the pool tables of his youth and found a very wealthy opponent, one who would unwittingly bankroll him all the way to the top of the gambling world. Taking $1.2 million from his mark at the pool tables for stakes up to $40,000 a game, he more than tripled his money by taking the same guy to the cleaners on the poker felt. He hit Vegas with his $4 million and soon turned it into $7 million and sat in the famous Binion's Horseshoe Casino waiting for anyone rich and brave enough to take him on. Stu Ungar was the first one to fall to Karras' red-hot poker sword, quickly dumping $1.2 million in Karras' way. Next, Chip Reese stepped up to the challenge and lost another $2 million, and within 6 months, Archie Karas was sitting on $17 million with no one to play. Soon Karras had won all of Binion's highest denomination chips, and the casino had to actually buy them back from Karras. With $40 million in the bank, Archie Karas could have done anything with his life that he wanted, even retire to his own island and live a playboy lifestyle, or invest it and live in comfortable excess until the day he died. But no, what Karras wanted was to gamble, and it all came crashing down around his ears. His dice addiction, a high variance game at the best of times, accounted for half of his fortune in short order. Then came the baccarat tables, which took another $17 million away from him. And finally, as Bluff magazine explained it, when Karras was down to his last million, he made a terrible decision that cost him the remainder of his money and dignity. He headed to the Bicycle Club in Los Angeles and played Johnny Chan heads up. As soon as Karras arrived, a game was quickly arranged. Berman backed Chan, but both Berman and Chan played Karras heads up and alternated every 2 hours. Karras destroyed the tag team duo of Berman and Chan and doubled up. However, His inner action junkie could not prevent him from heading straight back to the craps tables. Karras then kissed his last $2 million away shooting dice. Number 3. Scotty Wynn. Scotty Wynn is one of the true characters in the poker world, a loud and personable guy with legendary poker skills mixed in with gambling and drug problems. Scotty Wynn built himself up from literally nothing into a millionaire using only his card skills, and just as quickly saw it reduced to ashes when the fame and fortune took their pound of flesh. His very first WSOP winning would set a trend for blowing his winnings. Scotty Wynn scooped over $150,000 for his Omaha high-low victory and lost it all on dice between the cashier's desk and the exit. As many others have discovered before and since, the road to poker's greatness has a lot of pitfalls along the way, and Scotty Wynn has fallen into most of them. Scotty has seen plenty of controversy throughout his long and illustrious career, his alcohol-fueled rants at the poker table causing major problems in the past. This is not to mention drug excess, which cost him more than money, and even soft playing acquisitions, which hurt more than the millions lost. While some champions have hit rock bottom and literally begged their way into the games, Scotty Wynn has never been able to do this, he says. Whether he now has $5 million or a dime in his pocket, Scotty Wynn has recovered from his worst and darkest days of drinks, drugs, and gambling. Number 4. Erick Lindgren. When it comes to stories of poker pros going bust, they don't come much uglier than Erick Lindgren's sad tales of debts, gambling degeneracy, bankruptcy, and legal actions. Almost from the start, Erick Lindgren has an addiction to sports betting, and it wasn't a cheap one either. He was betting almost $50,000 to $100,000 per game. Fellow poker pro and sports bettor Haralabos Voulgaris came out and publicly claimed that Erick Lindgren owed him 6 figures for years and had failed to pay his debts in full. Lindgren's debts across poker and sports books got as high as $10 million at one point, and although he claimed to have paid back as many as he could, his name became synonymous with bad debt in poker circles. Despite the stint in rehab and help from those left in the game willing to extend a hand, in 2015, Erick Lindgren was slapped with a lawsuit from PokerStars, who had bought out, or rather inherited, his $2.5 million debt from Full Tilt Poker, and Lindgren once again filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. A very sad and cautionary tale that shows no matter how talented a player you are or how much you win, the lifestyle of the rich and famous can come crashing down if you don't control your urges. Number 5. Chino Ream. Sometimes, perhaps not often but sometimes, you can feel sorry for the man who once had it all and let it slip between his fingers by a combination of bad luck, bad choices, bad runs, and bad advice. Other times, however, you feel that the person got exactly what they deserve, and poker lowlife Chino Ream falls into the second category. Chino Ream borrows money, lots of it, and he doesn't pay it back. Instead, he blows it on tables, or parties, or drugs, or whatever. Not an entirely novel story, but Chino Ream has a bad habit of dragging others into his lies and deceit, claiming for example that Mike Mizrachi would vouch for him and the man had offered no such thing. To be so broke that you have to lie and cheat other players out of their own hard-earned money to continue your own degenerate ways is about as low as it gets. Rumor has it he has paid off some of the smaller debts by now, whether by choice or by force is unclear, but it has been said that even if Chino Reams wins the main event, it would barely put a dent in what he really owes out there. Number 6. Gus Hansen. Gus Hansen has always been famous for his crazy swings. After having won 4 WPT titles and made 6 final tables, amassing over $11 million, the Danish player hit rock bottom in 2014. His losses on Full Tilt Poker surpassed $20 million in September, losing as much as $630,000 in a week alone. He managed to get a little bit back, but with his total losses of more than $18 million, the man set the record for online poker losses. If a reasonable reaction would be to curl up in a fetal position and start crying, the Great Dane kept it cool, saying, "I still have money in my pocket, my online numbers aren't looking too pretty, but I can still afford a sandwich." Gus Hansen made a comeback to both high-stakes games, live and online, a few years later, as we can see from his short Instagram videos where he shows us glimpses of his poker sessions in Bobby's room. Many professional poker players might have gone broke, but few with quite the same laid-back attitude. So those were some of the top poker pros that went broke. If you liked this video, leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.